personally why I want to be in Contenders for as long as I can, because to not only show that spotlight onto that passion, but there's so many, like, I almost say better storylines in Contenders because they have something to prove. They have a goal. In Overwatch League, you're there, you know?
Yep. They don't
Okay,
have
so to bring it
yeah.
back to Nate, Overwatch League offers you a casting contract to cast the Overwatch League tomorrow. Do you take it?
Of course.
Yes.
Yep, see.
Yeah.
Just put me in, coach.
Who? Like,
Who is that?
It's a complete show. It's a complete show.
That was probably the easiest question of my life, Bob. Thank you.
Right on the hit. Pulse Bomb gets nothing effect. Has that one taken away by Troy Hellman. It seems like this could be.
Hello and welcome to the Overwatch League recap, a talk show focusing on the Overwatch League. However, today we have a special episode mostly focusing on Overwatch Contenders. I am Blazin' Bob. I am joined by I Play Games, the usual suspect. What's up, I Play?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be here with all this new company. We have a full show today.
Yeah. We thought, Overwatch League is not going on at the moment. We thought how better to spend this time but to talk about Overwatch Contenders. And to do so, we brought on some awesome guests. First, we have LemonKiwi. What's going on, Jen?
Hey, good. I mean, it's been busy with all the showdowns and trials and things.
It's been
busy.
crazy. Also, we have Boopasaurus. What's going on, brother?
It's going super well. Having a good 3-day weekend, and I see that I'm in the largest box, and that makes my ego feel great.
You are definitely in the largest box, and you have, basically the Overwatch logo behind you at the moment.
Yeah, Ham put this on like
The
a free
official meta
podcast,
logo.
and I was like, "This is good. I like this."
It should be your background for everything.
Oh, man. Yes, for the audio listeners, he has a goat in the background behind him.
He's so cute.
He is very cute. And last but definitely not least, we have Ham Tornado. What is going on, Ham?
Hooroo! I am going all the way from Boulder to Colorado Springs, not on a bike though, but on a motorcycle. It's been going good, Bob.
Yeah, when Boop told me you were riding from Boulder to the Springs, I thought, she's riding a bike? That is crazy.
It's a 90-minute drive, by the way, for those at home.
Yeah, it's a 90-minute drive. So across some just like a little 2-lane highway essentially.
Yeah, when you finally cleared it up and said that you were riding a motorcycle, I was like, okay, that makes so much more sense.
Yes, exactly. It's a lot easier when you can kind of just like noom along and you don't have to, use your muscles.
All right, well, so first off, we always like to start the episode by thanking our two producers, Shazir and Ridiculous Brent. Thank you so much for helping us make this happen. Today, we're going to start off with a quick interview with each of our guests, kind of getting their background and expertise in the scene. We're going to cover a little bit of Overwatch news. There wasn't much. There was a big piece, but not really much besides that. And then we're going to talk Contenders, Showdown, and pretty much whatever our guests want to tell us and educate us about Contenders. Because as our listeners know, I Play and I don't really know a lot about the scene. So we're excited to hear more about it.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and just jump right in. And I Play, I'm going to let you start with LemonKiwi.
Sure. Do you want me to ask her some questions, or tell the
do not have the okay, I'll start. You'll get
What do you want?
you'll get Boop next, but it's in the show notes if you didn't get those.
Oh, gotcha, no problem.
All right, so LemonKiwi, aka Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in Overwatch Contenders.
Okay, so for those that don't know me, I do casting in Contenders, Trials, Open Division. I'm play-by-play. I do some content. Maybe some people know me for my work with Jane, who's a streamer, more for the casual side of things, very educational. So I do content with him and interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, currently doing NA trials.
Awesome. So, what got you into the scene initially? Because I mean, I know you used to be on Contenders Daily, which you did in conjunction with John Horseman.
Yeah. So how I got into it was kind of funny. How is it? This guy just told me, hey, this new Overwatch game is really cool. Download it. And then that's how I actually met my partner today, is that we played Overwatch together. And I had actually started casting like ages ago for Call of Duty, and I was kind of looking for something new, and then eventually got into Broadcast GG, which is a broadcast company that covered Open Division and even scrims and stuff just to get better. I think that's how I met Boop and Ham. So we all met each other with Broadcast GG doing Open Division, and then that's kind of how everything started.
Yeah, we've had quite a few Broadcast GG people on the show. We've had Mushu, and we've had a few. I'm trying to think of them all now, but I can't. Labasco,
Yeah.
and we have more to come too. Broadcast GG is a super cool thing. So you mentioned that you are working with Jane now. What have you done with Jane's channel, Elo Hell Esports?
So we start off making some content together. So we interviewed Kefri and some other people, and then mainly I kind of help him plan his content a little bit, just to help him organize things. And then that's how I met you, Bob. Is that at the Dallas homestand? I think that was where. Yes, I helped kind of run a chase after Jane with a camera and help him vlog and just get footage of the arena, because that was the Dallas Fuel event. So we needed some extra bodies running around. So doing that, and then Elo Hell Esports, so Jane's company, for people that don't know, is kind of another broadcast company that's helping do coverage for Tier 2 and Tier 3. So things like Open Division, and now we're doing NA Trials, Contenders Korea we covered, and stuff like that. So busy.
Awesome. Any teasers for the future of the channel?
Yeah, I mean, Bliss is very happy with how the coverage has been going, and there might be more regions or more coverage coming soon.
Well, where could the listeners find information on that?
We're more of a Twitter people, so definitely Elo Hell Esports, so ELO Hell Esports on Twitter is where all the announcements and stuff go, and then there's links to Discords and more things that you can find. And all of our streams are on the Overwatch Contenders Twitch channel, where I would hope everyone's already watching. But yeah.
I played. Do you want to jump over to Boop questions 1 and 2?
Yeah, absolutely. Boopasaurus.
Yes, that's me.
What did you start telling us about that name? Where did that name come from?
So it was right after I watched Superbad back in the day. So you remember in that movie, there's like a whole like boop scene, and then I was just doing that with my friends. Mind you, I was really annoying in high school, and probably right now as well. So I just kept doing it, and then someone just like dropped the name. Be like, you're being a Boopasaurus. And I was like, cool. And then I started playing video games 2 years later. And it was, I was looking for a name, and that's the thing that kind of like popped out at me at first. And so
I'm a Boopasaurus.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? That's going to be unique. And I didn't have to put like numbers at the end of it, which was cool. So when I started playing League of Legends, like a year after it came out, I was Boopasaurus to begin with. All thanks to Superbad, really.
A great movie too.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I was actually pointing to I am McLovin.
Nice.
It's right there.
How many times? Oh, this probably had something to do with it. A lot of people told me I was McLovin back in the day. I think because I was a moderately white. I am half Asian, but a lot of people didn't know that, and so they'd be like, "Oh, white guy with glasses, you're McLovin," and I'm like, "Great, he's so attractive. I love him."
That's such a compliment.
Is that better or worse though than the John Oliver comparison?
I think it's worse. The worst comparison I ever got was back in the day, like Ancestry.com had like a like, which celebrity do you look most like? And my number one was Rosie O'Donnell for some reason.
Whoa.
I look more like
so-
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. and then it was like Rosie O'Donnell, Ruben Studdard, and then McLovin. And so it was like
Not Austin Powers.
not Austin Powers, also
Dang.
not that attractive. Thank you. But
He's got swag, man. He's got swagger.
I just
But,
rewatched that
Mojo.
actually the other night on Netflix, the first one.
yeah, well, I think Gold
Mm.
Member's back on too, which is fun. But yeah, that's Boopasaurus. And it's funny because most people call me Boop. A lot of people don't. My name's Chris, so it's like it's super common anyway. And instead of being like a version of Christopher, I went by Topher for a while. Boop is just really, really nice, and
Boop.
you can
That's
hear
a
it
cool
really well.
nickname, and it actually fits in like the Overwatch scene. Like the word Boop
Yeah.
actually kind of
Yeah.
like makes sense.
There's an
you know?
emote too in Twitch
Yeah,
chat
well,
where it's Boop. So
and I'm sure we'll go over this, but my first ever, experience in Overwatch was I was on Contender Season 0 doing shoulder content for the mainstream, and one of my like most popular pieces was the Boop of the Week, which was like the best boop
Oh, perfect.
from that week of play.
Nice. Well, talking about that, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in Contenders and how you got into that?
Yeah, so I cast with Ham Tornado, and we have been doing it for the last 2 seasons. But like, I got into it on the early side. I was actually one of Left Guy's Alex Gilfrost's first casting partners in Overwatch. So way back in the day, during the Overwatch Carbon series, I was casting. Sorry, I got a cough. I'm gonna mute real quick. And then after we started casting, Carbon Entertainment got picked up to do Contender Season 0. But they didn't pull up any of the casters. But Alex, really appreciated the work that I was doing. I had just come on, and he was like, you know what? I think you'd be great for some like content to reinforce the stream. And at the time, the guy who was pitching all of this content was trying to prove that you could have like a show, right? Like a recap show at the beginning of the streams, like kind of like Watchpoint, right? And
Right.
so this is not true, but I like to say that I was probably like one of the first iterations of what became Watchpoint the first time around. And so I started doing them for Overwatch Carbon series, and when ZP and Hex were casting everything with Jamerson. And then I did a top 5 plays and a Boop of the Week and a full recap, and that was for season 0. And then I got, there was a lot of momentum there, but to be completely honest with you, I didn't like appreciate exactly where I was. It was my first like real gig, and admittedly, everyone around me I didn't notice would become these enormous stars in the Overwatch world, right? I was hanging out with like Puckett and Mr. X and Uber, who are all Uber was there only for the last week, but you catch the drift, and they're all really, really great people. And to be there at the beginning of like the birth of competitive Overwatch was really, really cool. I remember casting.
That's super awesome.
I casted Cloud9 FaZe Clan before admittedly knowing much about the game with Gil Frost. And so that's definitely a highlight for me. But then Carbon did not receive a season of Contenders. And that's when it was ZP, Jamerson, Gina, and I'm blanking on it's just ZP and Jamerson and Gina. And so and then I kind of had to go into this world where I was like, you know what? I had this opportunity. I kind of bungled it, right? I could have used that and jumped off of it to become a host or something, but I didn't. I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I find Eevee, because one group that I did continue to work with was a group called Wawa's Boot Camp, and Gilfrest connected me
Oh,
with them
wow.
as well. And so Wawa's Boot Camp, I was their caster for their tournaments. And so
Oh, cool.
eventually they realized that Gilfrost still had the studio from the Contenders time, but we weren't really doing anything. And then we were just going to do an in-camera, in-person cast for one of Wawa's Boot Camp's casts. And who happened to be the other caster there other than Ham Tornado? Yeah, exactly. Who happened to live in Colorado, 400 followers at the time. And
Did I have that many?
Yeah, I think originally I actually, I was trying to like get back into things, and casting with Gil was like a big deal for me. And originally I was like, I don't know if I want to cast with, and I've told Ham this, so this isn't new. I don't know, like, I don't know if I want to include this person because I'm trying to do this thing with Gil. But then Gil was like, no, she's great. And I was like, okay, that's unlike me. Let's give her a shot, right? And then we all got, it was golden, and I almost died on the drive up. They actually closed the road right after I had gotten up there. like was on the road. They closed it due to snow, and then
Which
so
they do here quite often. It's
yeah,
kind of weird.
I could not see throughout the entire drive up to Golden. And then I finally got there and Ham's there and we just immediately started talking. And like even her sister was there and I really loved her sister. And it was like a match made in heaven because we started casting and I was like, holy crap, like this is going really well. Like I'm having a ton of fun. I liken it to meeting my husband a lot. And it's so funny because I now call her my work wife. She literally goes to the doctor with John and I, and so
That's always an explanation.
yeah, and so after I met up with Ham, and then she introduced me to Broadcast UGs we're all talking about now, and it was like the first time that I really got to like sit down and grind. Right, admittedly, I was really lucky when it came to timing earlier on, and I finally got to grind and like kind of put down some seeds and work really hard for this through Broadcast GG. And Evie and I then got South American Contenders. We were doing, a lot of odds and ends things. And eventually, lo and behold, we get asked to do North American Contenders at the end of 2018. And that's been what we've been up to. We're doing a series right now, but Contenders is probably it is definitely what we're most well known for.
That's
Nice.
crazy because I did work with Wawas as well as a podcast series called Prepare to Attack.
Oh, yeah, I remember that on the Discord.
Yeah, where we would take a pro and we would go through the character and just, tell you how to play the character. It was basically for starters, whereas like Omnic Lab was more like a adept type of talk. It was more like a, hey, you're starting this game. What are the moves? And like we did each character. That was great, but Wawa's kind of died.
Yeah, well, they were, the thing about esports is you got to stay on top of the wave, right? If you get taken by the wave, it takes so long to find another one, right? And so they just kept hopping to a lot of different games. And I think because of like a little bit of a lack of focus, they couldn't really like commit to anything at the time. And then eventually, I think kind of the motivation kind of just started depleting more as people I think started realizing that it might not go where we thought it would. But Wawa's Bootcamp is why a lot of casters, know about Overwatch. It's why Ham and I know each other. It's why, I was still in the casting game because I was going to stop. I had a really cushy job up until like 3 months ago because I decided to quit to focus on esports. And it's funny because everyone immediately laughs when I say that. But like, it was really cool because I was about to be like, you know what? I'm just going to work in games, right? I was working at a game company doing business development, selling things to theme parks. And while it was fun going to theme parks, it was soulless to me, right? And like, I'm good at sales, but it's not really what I want to do. It's what I want to do is here in this space. And so there was a point where I was like, you know what? Let me just stick with Boulder Games and everything will be fine. And then Wawa's Bootcamp came along and I met Ham and I had this like renewed motivation to actually make something of myself in this industry again. And here we are.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, you keep talking about Ham. Let's get to know Ham.
Yeah.
Ham, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And I think Boop kind of covered what you do in Contenders at the moment, but yeah, just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, hey everybody, I'm Ham Tornado, your friendly neighborhood Contenders caster. I cast North American Contenders with Boop. We are professionally known as the Boop-nado. So I also have an extremely bizarre name, Ham Tornado, and because I just like telling this story because I just find it so funny, which, is just my humor, but like 8 or 9 years ago, I was super big into Oblivion, and I really liked all those Bethesda RPGs because it was the game that you could play by yourself late at night. You don't make a lot of noise. There's not a lot of like clicking or like typing or anything like that, so your parents wouldn't know that you were up late gaming.
I want to ask you one question though, real quick.
Yes.
Were you a duper or not a duper?
Where
you duplicate the items and just become super rich? Because that's what I did in Oblivion. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
That's so funny, dude, because I feel like we probably even use the same strats, like the same dupes. Yes, I am 1000% a duper. I am here. I paid $60 for this game. I want to have fun and be totally OP and just do whatever I want to do. Tramping around the world, killing fools, whatever. So yes, I absolutely duped items. I think at like one point I had so many like potions that I became over encumbered, and I had to go in and like console command and like increase my weight limit so I could like walk around with my 10,000 potions. Anyways.
Broke the game. I broke the game on Xbox doing it. Had to move it to computer to actually open it up.
Oh no! You still saved it though. That's the important part. Because like, those RPG games are tons of fun and they suck you in, and I really loved Oblivion. And so I would watch like all the content on YouTube and everything, and there was a video called Ham Tornado. So I clicked it, and it was just some guy who like console command spawned like 10,000 pieces of ham and threw it off a cliff, and it spiraled down as they spawned out of thin air and made like a ham tornado, like a little spiral of meat. And I was like, oh, haha, that's pretty cool. Not as cool as like the 10,000 watermelons off a cliff, but I'll give it a gentleman's B. But in the comments, somebody said, quote, ham tornado sounds like a porno of two butchers 69ing. And I was like, well, damn. Sold. Okay. All right. I have to remember this. I took a screenshot and sent it to my sister. And then later, when I heard about this game called Overwatch, I had never really played any esports games or, any kind of competitive shooters before. And Herbo was like, what name do you want? And I was like, you know what? I want to be called Ham Tornado. And it stuck. So that's how I got this name. But and that was kind of like the beginning of my esports journey, to be honest. I haven't actually been in this industry nearly as long as, even Boop, who's been following like the competitive gaming scene for ages. I came into it around the first Overwatch World Cup. I remember Team France had a female player, Kitty, who I thought was incredible.
I remember her. Yeah.
Right. Super tall, really beautiful long hair.
The first World Cup, yeah.
And I just fell in love with this game. Like Overwatch is, kind of a cross between a MOBA and an FPS, but it's really a game where even if you don't have the best mechanical skill, guilty, you can absolutely contribute to your team by being a good tank. And that's what I do, and that's kind of, what I still did. And so I just got sucked into it. And like Boop, I kind of just was going it on my own for quite some time until I found Broadcast GG, actually through Gilfrost, also left guy, another career jump started by Alex Gilfrost. What a great guy. But yeah, so I met him at the Denver DreamHack, and he suggested this server. He was like, hey, there's a place where people who are interested in broadcasting go. And I was like, oh, cool. What's it called? And he was like, I don't know. Nobody knew what this server was. I think back then BGG had maybe like, I don't know, Lemon, you would probably remember this. There was maybe like 150 people in the server way back in the day, right? When like before Scrim Nights joined, it was tiny. We're like, I don't know, probably 2,000 now. But
like only 10 of us would really ever talk at a time though. So yeah, that's smaller than that.
Even smaller than that. And I remember Lemon and Moosh were casting together then and working super hard. And I was that like really obnoxious person. I would come in every day and be like, oh, do you have scrims? Do you have scrims? And
some scrims.
You got some scrims. I really need some scrims here. I got to get right, man. And so eventually I just started like going into servers and finding teams that wanted their scrims cast and bringing them to BGG. And through that, we set up Scrim Nights, where teams who want to be broadcast can get paired up with casting duos who want to practice over some live games, right? Win-win. And cool. We kept grinding through, and that's where I met Boop at Wawa's Boot Camp, because I was just cold calling all these places, and again, super annoying, just being like, hey, you don't have no idea who I am, but I promise I do know something about Overwatch. Want me to cast? And they were like, no. But then again, Alex Gilfrost was like, hey, no, I know this girl. I know this like Evie Ham Tornado Fung. She's a pretty cool person. Like I met her at DreamHack. She went to this observing workshop we did and everything. And he's like, no, even though we already have a casting duo, which was Alex and Boop, he was like, no, we'll just share. We'll like make it a throuple. And from that point on, we kind of it just took off. Boop and I hit it off. He has the studio in his place. He was ready to grind. I was ready to grind. And, success, we're going to cross our fingers here, but It's just opportunity meets preparation. And while I prepared super hard and definitely was on the grind for a really long time, I did get very incredibly lucky by finding all of these good, incredible people to work with who were so supportive and willing to like be like, hey, you know what? Even though this might mean that I'm not casting as much, we want to like bring you in here and just kind of share that love. So
Well, and it was
that's
That's
super.
awesome.
It was super. What's the word I need to use? Opportunistic. Like the fact that you two are here in the same state and can cast side by side
Mhm.
on a green screen. That's huge because that just ups the quality by 110
Mm-hmm.
percent and gives it a real professional look, which is awesome.
Well,
Yeah, I
thank you.
think
But yeah.
we realized that I think immediately, right? We're like we have this opportunity by being in the same state, and there's a weird amount of esports people in Colorado, as you know, Bob. And they're, when you have a distinct advantage like that, like you can't not use it, right? And so I had the means to like set this all up, and my husband's like really into networking, and so we had the support there, and all the signs pointed to us putting in the work and doing it. And it's nice that people recognize the little extra something we put into it. And it's funny, I wanted to add a little something to Ham and Jen actually, because one of the first times that I was like really like, hey, this Overwatch stuff is really, really cool is when we had a really small crew for South American Contenders that first season.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it was, Jen and LaFon here, Jen and Helix weren't a thing just yet. And then it was Ham and I. We were the only two casting pairs, right? And so the four of us and our producer got to hang out a lot, and I developed a ton of respect for everyone involved. And it's so cool that the three of us are here on this podcast right now talking to you as like these people right now. And so it's just so awesome to see everyone's growth, not just selfishly ourselves, but the fact that we're all here. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool how like you guys have this whole story of the little communities you came up from, and like they form, and some of them don't exist anymore. But that's where kind of you came from, and now you're all here. And we have like very similar stories with Bob, with Rob, my other co-host, of just small little communities, and then like now we're just part of this huge Overwatch overarching industry, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely crazy. But just last, I just want to know. You moved to NA Contenders. Do you like that more? What's it been like changing over to that from South America? Because I know you guys loved a lot of the teams, especially
Yeah.
Brazil.
Yeah. I think it's no secret that Boop and I friggin' love the South American Overwatch community. There's just something special in the water there. The people are so passionate, and not just that, but like so funny and friendly, and just willing to they love Overwatch too. And if you want to talk Overwatch, like they'll always give you the time of
They
day.
still like
Janello,
keep tabs on us.
right?
Like
Like
I just saw X Ravaged talking to Jen on Twitter today, right? And so
Oh, he like
yeah,
retweeted old casting clips of like, back when we were still covering them. That was really
mhm.
cool.
yeah. And
That's
so that's
awesome.
like a good like I think summary of like how we feel about them too. It's like
Yeah.
we want to give back that passion as well that they were obviously giving off too. It's really cool.
And
Yeah.
and I plays from South America initially, right?
Colombia over here. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome, dude.
cool. Yeah, and and I think the biggest difference is, it's definitely play style, right? There are
Mhm.
certain decisions that South American teams make that North American teams I think wouldn't make. Um, uh, that was like the most politically correct thing I think I've ever said. But but really like I'm not someone who necessarily needs clean Overwatch to enjoy myself. I've loved college sports my whole life, and that kind of amateurish feeling of it is, I think, why I like it so much. Is that it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be mistakes, but
It's a
what is
really
in
good
college sports
comparison.
is like it's pageantry, it's that passion, it's playing for your future.
Rivalries.
Yeah, it's rivalry specific. It's playing for your future, in this industry. Right. And South American Overwatch feels that times 10 because they don't have the support that the other regions do, because you have to be the best player to move up, right? There is no, best player on this team. Envy and Fusion Uni are both doing well. In South America, you don't really get that. You get one shot at the gauntlet or at the invitational or at the showdown, right? To really show your stuff on the world stage and to be a part of the process and potentially helping some of those players like Alemong and Klaus, find success. And the three of us all did that collectively, with our teams on South American Contenders. That's what's awesome. Well, the cool thing about going into North America is more so of, you still get that pageantry, but there's just like, I love the players, like the storylines are a little bit more secure as well. And while, South American Overwatch, has its character, so does North America. And I love the ideology. I love the people involved, and to be a part of the process of what North American Contenders is, I feel lucky enough to just be there.
It's an awesome gig.
Yeah, it's a sweet gig, and hopefully, it's something that gets to stay a little bit longer. But for the time being, I'm having a blast getting to know people from these teams, getting to know the coaches, and starting to like feel these storylines from like seasons now, not just one or two games. It's seasons worth of storylines, and that's what I'm really, really excited about. And then anytime like one of us like something will be like, "As Gods is really good," or anytime we get like onto a player and then they get promoted to Overwatch League, that's also like,
we're definitely going to talk about that here shortly.
Watching one of your kids, grow up. You've been watching them all season, and all of a sudden Trill's in Overwatch League, right? That's super cool.
Awesome.
That was a cool one. I think for me, like get fried winner getting bumped up into Overwatch was like that first feeling, that taste of like, holy cow. Like, and another one that was another really cool moment was we actually were able to cast IM37's only Contenders game ever before he got moved into OWL like almost immediately.
That was a crazy story. That was a super crazy
It didn't last
story.
very long there.
That dude is also just like super awesome. He's like massively tall. I was not expecting that. But yeah, like Boop said, I agree with all those points. And, now being in North American Contenders, you do have a little bit more of that, like kind of the material, the storylines, right? Like Fusion University, will they become the 4th time champion, right? They've done it so many times before, but now all the little peasants are revolting. They're rising up and gaining strength. Who's going to topple the kings? Who's going to give them that first loss, right? That's been a ton of fun to tap into this season, because this being our second season in North America, we like the first season, it's been a whirlwind, just putting it out there. Like Boop said, a dream gig is also, dreamy, I'm guessing. But it was almost too overwhelming in the first season. It was really hard to kind of just sit down, take a really deep breath, and try and digest all of this new information that you're getting in, because while we are following all these players and teams and watching them, it's very different to be the one trying to tell their stories. It's a lot of responsibility. So now coming into the second season, it just feels so much more secure. It's been easier to kind of just let go and have fun and be like, come on, gig, charging in there again, shatters the whole team. And, what else do we expect from, one of our most aggressive Reinhardts? To be able to say those kinds of stories, with confidence now that we're, more ingrained into the community has been great.
And just to add to the whole South American thing, I think why it was extra special for all of us was there was no English broadcast for South America before Broadcast GG came in. Like, not only did we give, we made this content more available to other audiences, because it's actually available at a time zone that, NA people can watch it at. It started at noon my time on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And then to provide that English coverage, making them available to a different audience, because NA is
huge.
where everything is getting scouted, right? Overwatch League, it's mostly NA people that are scouting. So to get people like Liko and Klaus and Alemong, these are South American players now in the North American scene, it was maybe because they got some English coverage. Not saying that, the Portuguese and Spanish coverage wasn't watched, but it's a little bit harder when you don't know what's going on. So not only did we provide that coverage, but a lot of us, that was our first Contenders region. That was our first like big shot, if you will. And so it gave us an opportunity. Like, that's how Boop and Ham got like a huge amount of experience and clout, if you will. And it was all of our first times like getting a serious broadcast. So all of us were learning the ropes of casting like so many hours a week rather than scrims. And scrims are a different environment whatsoever. And
No, we know. Scrim bucks mean nothing.
And then also the like Boop already said, the environment is so different. Like they are the underdogs, and to give them an actual spotlight for NA, because you always underestimate anyone outside of NA in Korea, if you will, but to give them a spotlight in NA was really cool for us. And I think it's
Yeah.
still one of my regions I think about the most.
Yep,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, we all worked actually, and then just to kind of put on like I love everybody. We all worked really well together. Like I don't think one of us, I don't think we missed a single one of us missed a story meeting. I don't think
Mhm.
we, not a single one of us missed a broadcast unless we had to, like because of a pre-planned trip or something like
It
that.
wasn't
It was
work, right? It didn't
yeah,
feel like
it
work.
literally was probably, and I've worked in a lot of groups. It was probably one of the most well-functioning, well-oiled groups of people I've worked with in general.
We were super collaborative. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun.
and so that was, and when you're having fun when you're working like that, all you can think about is having fun at the next level too, right? And so, we're all getting to that point at this point, and it's been really, really exciting. And to be able to trace our steps back together at this one point is super, super cool.
It's super
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome. Well, let's move into a little bit of Overwatch League news. This one affects everybody: Contenders, Overwatch, Path to Pro, everything.
Mhm.
Nate Nancer, commissioner of the Overwatch League, Uncle Nate. I mean, the guy that brought the idea to us initially has stepped down and is going over to ESPN reports Epic Games for Fortnite. I've talked about this actually on a couple different podcasts since it happened, so I'm going to let you guys talk about it. What do you guys think about this?
I'm gonna say, how much money did Epic Games offer Nate Nancer to get him away from Overwatch League?
It
Just
probably
look at what
wasn't
they've
just money.
look at what they've spent the last 2 years, and you have to think it's a lot, if not on top of that, ownership in the company.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to
Mhm.
give him a huge stake for it to be like such a good business move that it's
Mhm.
almost impossible to pass up, right? Because it's not like Overwatch League is struggling or anything like that, and everybody likes Nate. He's been doing a fantastic job. There was no reason for him to really step down in the way that he did, unless it was too good of a deal, right? Um, that being said, I think that Overwatch League at this point is kind of like running by itself. I think that the things are said. We got enough teams to be playing around. Localization has started to happen. So, like, the plans are in motion. It's sad that Nate is leaving just because I feel like he's an iconic part of Overwatch League since he started with everyone else. But I don't think the league itself is gonna, downturn or anything. And on the other hand, Fortnite is probably gonna benefit a lot from the contacts that he's bringing into, their business.
Oh yeah, and Jen, I bet you're happy that you got to meet him in Dallas before
How
he's gone.
unlucky! I met him, and then a month later or whatever, he's out of Overwatch League because I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then he's like, "You should talk to this guy." And then I'm like, "Okay." And then maybe that meant because I won't be here in a month. So,
Yeah,
uh,
the guy he was sitting next to, I'm pretty sure is the one that's going to take over.
you think?
Yeah.
Leaks.
Leaks.
But well, I mean, I'm
actually have a
not going to
funny
say his
assumption.
name, but you know who he was sitting next to.
No, but
Yeah.
I think they announced it already, right? It was
They
like
did?
Did they?
the Blizzard director of something. Yeah, there's a name out there. I can look it up while you guys keep discussing.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have a really funny Nate Nanzer story because I never like officially met him, but I was at the esports conference in Las Vegas. Actually, Jen and I met the next day.
Oh, hey, Texas,
Yeah,
yeah.
and Bellagio has a great brunch buffet. And then I actually saw Nate Nanzer lose like $100 in like 10 minutes playing blackjack. And that was my only interaction.
That's like pennies for him, probably.
Yeah, but like I remember like
Especially
sitting
after this
down
move.
with like I was like with like Monty and Susie, and, like those are the people at the table. Hashtag name dropping. And then it was and then Nate was like up behind us, like obviously like a little piffed, right? Like I just lost $100. And I was like, now is probably not a good time to introduce myself. And then,
Hey,
and
want to lose
then-
some more money?
yeah, yeah. Put it right back down, my friend, because I'm by the way, I'm Chris. I've cast Contenders, and I did some stuff for Season 0. You might know me, Boob of the Week. Yeah, I read the room and decided that probably wasn't a smart idea. And then that's my Nate and Answer story. That's it.
Aw.
Nice.
Yeah.
I found the name of the successor over here. Is CEO of Activision Blizzard Esports Leagues, Pete, and I'm probably gonna butcher the last name, Vlastelica. Pete Vlastelica.
Oh.
PV. All right.
All right, everyone is
Yeah.
Googling.
Yeah, everybody is definitely
Everyone's
looking this up right now.
Googling it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
No.
found his LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. That's yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's exactly who I thought. Yeah,
Yep.
he's the guy that gave me the backstage tour at the Blizzard Arena at the opening week.
Nice.
Super nice guy. He let me sit at the StarCraft caster's desk and put the headset on.
Oh, cool.
And he took my picture for me so I could look like a caster. It was great. Super
Aw.
super cool guy.
Yeah, he is connected with Nate and Answer on LinkedIn, so
Hmm. He's about to get a lot more followers.
No
Just
bad
News
feelings.
breaks.
Yeah, I think that I think this is okay. It's
I
not
think
like
it'll
he
be
left
fine,
him. Yeah. I mean, Ham, did you want to chime in?
I think I mostly already my points were covered, but like the league is in its second season now, right? They've changed some things. They've added a whole bunch of new content for the run of the show, and things are looking really good and stable. So I don't think that this is a death knell for the league at all, or really a major cause for worry, because we have this kind of groundwork, this foundation already, and now it's just going to be whoever steps in, Pete apparently. It's just about iterating now on what his vision is and changing kind of like the foundations for what we already have. I don't think anything's going to fall apart.
Yeah, I think to play devil's advocate, I think it did look strange to a lot of people because there are articles coming out about is esports doing as well, or is Overwatch League doing as well
bubble
as
gonna
everyone
burst?
is saying? Is the
Oh,
bubble gonna
you
burst?
guys are
Esports
talking
bubble.
about the Kotaku article, right?
I think so.
Oh.
Like there was just a
Kotaku.
lot of articles,
Okay,
but that
okay.
one
Remember,
specifically.
yeah.
Clickbait.
But just this, and then like, is Overwatch League doing as well as they say it is? And then to have one of the biggest faces kind of, it looked like jumping ship to a lot of people, like the shock factor of this,
Yeah.
someone whose job is to love Overwatch and to promote Overwatch and kind of go to Fortnite, which Fortnite, it kind of probably gave the shock factor of, well, is he leaving because Overwatch League is not doing well, or is he leaving because of a better offer? And I think that's why that kind of scared some people, which is totally
Yeah, I
understandable.
That's true. The optics,
Yeah, for sure.
the optics aren't super hot, right? Because right before the Nate Nanzer news was the news that NRG is dropping out of Contenders, and then right after that, Mayhem Academy are dropping their Contenders roster as well. So
Yeah.
it doesn't look good. But in this case, where you're totally right, Lemon. It's like his job to get the league up and running. Everything's profitable and everybody's happy. And I would argue though that he's done that job, right? We're
Mhm.
in the second successful season, and I think the bigger question is now, where does the trajectory of the league go, right? Because it's headed in a pretty clear direction right now, but anytime there's a change in management, things can change, right? So I think the uncertainty is also what's making people maybe a little bit uneasy about just
Yeah.
what might happen tomorrow.
But I often wonder, like, how much management Nate was actually doing. Like, I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
saw Nate as
Face.
okay. So I'm in IAT, and we have something called a oh, dang it! Now I'm blanking on it. But a technical salesman or a. Okay, well, I'm sorry that I'm
So,
blanking on that,
I-
but
I
like
think
basically, like someone who is selling and who is making contacts and who
This is what I did for Boulder
pushing,
Games.
pushing
Yeah.
the league. And I don't know that he was actually the one making all, like he had word in it, but I don't think he was making all of the behind the scenes decisions.
I think he's very responsible for like reaching out to like the investors, right? Like all the team owners, the franchises that ended up signing up with the league, doing the push to get the connections with TV, doing all this stuff. I think he was very involved with all of that stuff at the macro level, right? But yeah, like you were saying, with the inner workings and management of the league itself and the production, I think he probably didn't have much to do with that.
He probably signed those checks, right? But he didn't
Right.
or maybe like had like, oh yeah, this looks good. But I think you guys nailed it on the head. In the small interaction I had with Nate, the way that he talks, the way that he carries himself, he is exactly who I want in front of those investors. You know what I mean? He speaks with such intent, and he's so good at it, right? And
Right.
so, but like just to kind of
Sales
like,
engineer. That was what I was trying to think
Yep.
of.
and so it's so
Ah,
funny because that's what I did. I actually like just went out and like cold called a bunch of people and try to get money for my company. I'm the next Nate Nanzer, everyone. Haha. Anyway, but I think really what this conversation is kind of like a 50-50, right? There's two reasons why he left. I don't think there's more than two. It's either because he sees the writing on the wall. I don't think this is it, but this is just one of the things. He sees the writing on the wall, and maybe localization's a lot harder than he intended it to be, and he's getting out while it's good, right? Or there's the other side of that where he's done a great job, and he came in without that esports experience. I believe he was a lawyer before he was commissioner for Overwatch League,
And
and
he also had a job inside the NFL too.
yeah, and so like that's the type of person that I would like to represent esports as a whole, and not necessarily it's not necessarily a really great thing to keep someone like him to ourselves. If that you know what I mean? Because
That's a
if
really good
Fortnite
point.
is if Fortnite's doing well, then Overwatch is probably doing well as too, right? And
Yep.
if Nate's able to do this with Overwatch League, he might be able to do it with Fortnite, and it doesn't have to be dog eat dog, and we can share fans. And I think that he's exactly the type of person I want to be representative of not just Overwatch League, but of esports as well. Because I've seen him talk, even in just that small interaction in Las Vegas. Like he just has this special energy that some people
He
just have,
really
right?
does.
yeah,
Like
he's
I've talked to him a handful of times, and he's just. I mean, he's awesome.
I think you hit upon it, Boop. It's like if it's not a zero-sum game, right? If other esports are doing well, Overwatch is an esport. We're gonna do well too. And you're also totally right, Bob. I feel like all I do is like agree with other people's opinions, but I think you just nailed it right there. I've also met him. I was actually drunk off my ass at a Twitch party, and I handed him my business card, and he was perfectly professional,
I
cordial,
did
a
the same
really
thing.
nice
That's
guy.
how I met him. BlizzCon 2018. I did the same thing. I walked in with my card.
The
And I was like,
patio
"Hey,
party.
man, I can't believe I met you, but I gotta just come over and shake your hand and say hi. I've been loving the league and everything." And we talked for like 7 minutes. I'm gonna say 7 because 5 seems
Yeah,
too short. I just gotta feel a little bit better about it. But yeah, and he just seems like such a solid dude that he would do good for esports wherever he is, right? His baby's kind of already taken off, right? Second season, Overwatch League's
It's
gonna be
okay to
fine
send your
without
kids to
him.
college, right?
Yeah.
He even talked to fans at the guild hall opening week and listened to this kid who couldn't get into the bar, who got kicked out of the bar, but like waited out there till we all walked outside. It was me, Achilleos, and Nate, and we're talking, and he just walks up, and Achilleos looks at him like, "What's up, dude?" And then he just breaks into his spiel to Nate about how to fix Farah. And Nate listened to it. He goes, "Well, I mean, honestly, dude, you probably just got to get good." And he was like, I mean, but like he listened to the whole thing. Then he told, then he told the kid that he would talk to Jeff. And I mean, he literally listened to him and actually commented on what the kid said. And I just like when I saw that, I thought, man, this guy is awesome, dude. This guy like can talk to anybody, and that is definitely what you want. Hopefully, we get that moving forward, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Moving on to
Well,
other. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
you
yeah.
wanted to
No,
say something else?
I was just about to say, like, it's not necessarily we don't need a Nate carbon copy, right? It would be really nice, but there's room for someone else to take the banner and run with it, and I'm excited for whoever that's going to be outside of the interim. So
Yeah, do it their way for sure. Quick bit of news. This will be over May 31st, but if you wear your Overwatch League skins in game, you get Overwatch League tokens for playing games. and they're gonna announce who wore what team had the most skins worn during games. It's been going on for a couple days, and it ends the 31st. So definitely wear all your Overwatch League skins during your games. That was something that I just found out doing the notes today. I had no idea that was going to happen. Moving on to team news. Toronto Defiant promote Gods and Shark to the Overwatch League roster. Now, I'm excited because normally we don't know a lot about Contenders players when they come up, but we have 3 Contenders people.
Get the experts.
I actually do know Gods, but why don't you guys tell us if this is good or bad?
I think
Great.
it's great. Gods arguably had an MVP like season. If the teams that he was on, I mean, Montreal Rebellion played really, really well. And Second Wind did while he was on it. But he had, in my opinion, one of those breakout seasons throughout the entirety of the 7 weeks plus playoffs. He was the most consistent, one of the most consistent. We actually had some really good diva play this season. We had one of the most consistent divas. And Sherrick is just another one of those Ryans that I think for certain teams adds that special sauce of that aggression and that kind of like playmaking potential that you need with Reinhardt's and Goats. We didn't really see any of our main tanks play Orisa. Now that Bunker Comp's getting a little bit more popular, it's a little hard to kind of nail that down. But I think every pickup that I heard from Contenders is one that either, I've heard ZP and Avast on Cass say, or something that, we've talked about, in jest on who should be next. Trill's another really great example of that. But Gods and Sherrick 100% deserved. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They both played out of their minds this season. They're a big reason why Montreal took, Philly Fusion, the Fusion University to 5 games in the semis. And I'm so happy for them, especially now that they get to, have a little bit more of that notoriety, because I think that the promos that we've gotten from Contenders this season are potential star makers, and can bring us into our 3rd and 4th year of our league.
Yeah, Sharika and Gods are both like just such solid players that they would enhance any team that they got on, right? Like Gods, he's been one of those OG journeymen in Overwatch all the way back in when he was playing for C9. I think he played like a lot of Hog. I think he even played Reaper at one point. And now he's just turned into a monster diva. Like his diva is just a fight winner. Yeah. Oftentimes in and of himself, right? He eats a grav, instant momentum change, right? He gets a bomb, 2k, instant momentum change. And the craziest thing about Gods is this isn't just once, right? It's not just twice. It's not just 3 times or 17 times. Even Ham Tornado can get like 4 good bombs maybe over my career. But every time he plays a game, he shows up huge. And Sharik, like Boop said, he has that perfect mixture of aggression and calculation. I was talking to the Montreal Rebellion coach, and I was like, what do you think Sharik is going to add to your lineup? Because we're heading into the last 2 weeks of Contenders. Do you think that, he's going to be able to plug and play with your team? What is he bringing to the table? And he said basically, like, Sharik, you can obviously see when he goes in aggressive, he has that confidence, he has that plan, but it's never just one plan, right? He always has the second plan, the third plan, and he knows how to punish just as well as he knows how to go in aggressive and try and take those kills and take those fights himself. And that's what turns a good Reinhardt player into a great Reinhardt player, right? It's like, I could do this. I could just go in and, swing my hammer and do whatever I want. Or, what might actually be an even better play is just to hold back just a little, bait them into a bad engagement. And he has that kind of game sense and knowledge that I think is one of those intangibles that we don't talk about as often. It's not as, visually apparent, but that's a big part of his play style, and I think will certainly serve the Toronto Defiant very well.
Awesome. What do you think, Jen?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Just Gods and Sharik going up to...
I think that was pretty obvious. I think Gods was smurfing in Contenders, absolutely. And Sharik was... he was definitely...
legit
I like that.
Contenders.
Yeah. Gods was like... He was. I was doing a bit of some highlight reels for NA Contenders, and it was. I was trying to find other things because Gods was always on top. He was eating like 4 or 5 grabs a game.
Oh
And I'm
yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
great.
he was eating
Such a
everything.
huge stat too.
And Sharik, I think that was like a newer face that I hadn't seen because I don't watch a ton of EU. I believe that's where he was from. But
Yeah, he used to play for Sishope and Windstrike.
yeah, so that I don't watch a ton of EU, so that was really cool to see. And I know there's a big demand for main tanks in Overwatch leagues. So I know there's Trill and Sharik and probably other main tanks soon to be joining him.
Yeah, Trill's a weird one we've talked about. I feel like Trill could start for 10 of the teams in
Not the one that
Overwatch
he's
League,
on, though.
but not the one that he's on. I think
Yep.
he actually could start, but I mean, OGE has gotten so much fan support, like it would be
Yeah.
hard to.
I take this as like a Tom Brady Garoppolo situation, or like a Brett Favre Aaron Rodgers situation,
Yeah,
right?
Brett Favre,
Let's give
Aaron
them-
Rodgers is good.
Let's give them some time with the the OGs, and like let's let them train, and watch the best, and then when something happens and we need Trill to step up, he'll be ready.
So,
Mhm.
so on Defiant, do you guys think the Gods and Sharik start?
It's hard to say because it would make it a mixed roster, and
Wait,
that is-
I missed the question. I got Garbo internet right here.
Do Gods and Sharik start?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that they're one of the first teams to add England, like North American / European players into their Korean roster. We've seen the success of mixed rosters, in the last group stage. I don't think so. To start, maybe in the future, because I think they're experimenting with something right now, and so they need to kind of like figure out which parts of the experiment they need to work with. Because right now we only have the baseline, right? The hypothesis is whatever the diagram is on experience, whatever.
You can
but,
you can only have like one dependent variable, right? So like
yeah. But I think you
so,
guys
like-
catch my drift. Basically, it's a mixed roster now. It's an experiment. That's not something I would do to start a stage, but maybe after some results have already been done, maybe playoffs have already been locked up, or maybe they've already lost playoffs. That's when I think that they'll find their first playtime.
Gotcha. Does everybody agree with Boop?
Yep.
Okay.
I concur.
All right, well, moving on. We want to know. Okay, so first off, so most of our listeners don't follow Contenders, but we might be able to change that here. So why don't you just tell us what the Pacific Showdown, which just ended, is, and why it's important?
Who's got this?
Let's Jen hasn't
Yeah, Jen,
talked
you do
much,
Korea, so-
Yeah.
let's hear it.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Okay, so what is the Pacific Showdown and why is it important?
So, well, there's 2 showdowns being Pacific and Atlantic, and they're tournaments, but they kind of act as qualifiers for the gauntlet. So 5 teams per showdown move on to the gauntlet. So the Pacific, like in the name, contains the Pacific teams. Let me just pull them up one more time. I had them here. No, I do not.
Korea, China, Australia, and Pac.
Thank you. Yeah. Showdown. Yeah. So then they contain the winners of the different regions. So you had 2 spots for Korea being Element Mystic and O2 Blast. So those were the first and second place teams. You had 2 teams, or sorry, 1 team from China, or no, 2 teams from China, LG Huya and T1W. You had 1 team from Pacific being Talon Esports, and then 1 team from Australia being Order. And then the bracket was set up, and then depending on how you placed at the end of the tournament, you got to either keep your region spot at the gauntlet, you get to get an extra spot for your region in the gauntlet, or you lost a spot for your region in the gauntlet. And based on those results, Element Mystic won in first place. So that got Korea a 3rd spot in the gauntlet, meaning, which confirm or deny, that means possibly Runaway would be heading there because they were in 3rd place, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, Korea got an extra spot. So now 3 Korean teams are going to the gauntlet. O2 Blast got 2nd place, so Korea doesn't, for anyone that plays from second to fourth, being O2, T1W, and Talon, there's no extra spots. They get to keep their spots going to the gauntlet. But fifth and sixth in Pacific Showdown was LG Huya, which is the Chinese team, and Order, which is the
And
Australian
that's
team.
crazy too. LG Huya.
Yeah, the fact that we could maybe talk about like how crazy it was after, but then because they placed so badly, they lost a spot in the gauntlet. So Pacific, because
Talon got 'em.
Talon is fine. So Pacific only got one invite to the gauntlet. They got to keep that invite. But Australia, Order, they only had one invite, and they lost that invite due to Order placing almost last.
Rip.
And China, LG Huya, so that's a Chinese team, they lost one invite, but they had two invites. So now it drops down to only one invite for the gauntlet. So I hope that all made sense.
Okay,
for
so
format-wise.
like it's basically the showdown is like a tournament between different contenders regions.
It's the international tournament that people have been clamoring for ages, and there's the Pacific representation and the Atlantic representation. So essentially, Pacific covers the top Korean, Australian, PAC, and Chinese teams. Atlantic covers the best North American, South American, and EU teams. And then at the end of the year, after both showdowns are played, the top teams from those will then move into the gauntlet, which is like the ultimate smackdown of which region is truly superior.
It's like Contenders World Cup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I've been
awesome.
telling people. It's just to kind of simplify. It's just World Cup, contender style.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so like that's something they put in this year. We covered it, and like I'm just kind of asking you questions because I'm pretty sure our listeners don't have any clue like how Contenders works, how to follow it, how do teams qualify for the showdowns?
Oh, so for the showdowns, you have to place a certain, you have to win your play-in game if you're North America, in order to get there. So just to give you an example, our representatives for Atlantic are Fusion University and Envy as our champions, and then Atlanta Academy did a play-in game. So Envy won North America West, Fusion University won North America East after the tournament, and so they punched their tickets to Showdown. And so the other regions all did that. So like another really great story is actually Order making it to the Pacific Showdown because they beat Sydney Drop Bears, and Sydney Drop Bears have lost, I think, a total of 2 games in the history of their organization. And so Order ended up beating them in the tournament and then getting that spot in the Pacific Showdown. So you have to win first. You have to win your region, and if you're like a lucky loser like Atlanta Academy, then you want to play on playing game because North America got 3 seeds. You have to win your region, and then you go to the showdown, and then you have to place in the top 4 there. So there are certain regions with only one representative that could lose their spot in the gauntlet, and that's PAC, Australia, and South America. And those 3 are at risk of not having any representation at the gauntlet. So whoever wins the showdown in the top 4, they get to go, and then seeding. I think the top seeds still get a bye at the gauntlet. I could be wrong here, but you have to win a bunch of tournaments. So you have to win 2. You have to place well in the second tournament. You have to win your first tournament, and then you'll get to go to the gauntlet.
Oh, it's so confusing to me. It really is.
Basically, Contenders feeds into the showdowns, and the showdowns feed into the gauntlet. Right, and depending on how large your region is, you get more or less slots, which is why North America ended up having 3 teams, and why South America, alas, only has 1 slot in the showdown. So, like Boop was saying, low-key esports who are playing this weekend cannot afford to place anything lower than 4th. Otherwise, all of South America loses their representation in the gauntlet because they only had 1 slot to begin with.
Oh, that's rough.
And that happened to Australia with Order not making it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So why don't you guys give us a little rundown of how it went? Any highlights or any surprises? Did it kind of go as you guys thought it was gonna go, or some of the teams showed up? What's up?
I think the winner is the winner I think most of us expected. Jen, you've had the most experience with Element Mystic, and I'm sure Kaiser played well.
I feel like you could probably just wax poetic about Doha's Sombra the whole time. That guy's a monster.
I think one of the biggest highlights was actually Talon taking a game. Because people didn't really expect that. A lot of people just thought Talon and Order would be the bottom two there, but Talon really showed up for the Pacific region, and so they get to go to the Gauntlet, and that's really exciting for a region like that. It would be the equivalent of South America getting, keeping their spot in the Gauntlet too.
Nice.
So this would be the highlights for me, but I'm sure Jen's got like the specificity when it comes to like O2.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I
Element
watched it
Mystic.
today, and Jen was pretty much in chat every third, post in chat. I mean, I was just like, damn, she is into this.
She was chat casting.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was up really late. Thankfully, it's only at 10 p.m. West Coast, so I was able to just stay up till 4 a.m. trying to watch most of it, and also trying to see like how well it was gonna go, because like it was Element Mystic and O2 Blast, and I just wanted to see how O2 Blast was gonna do, right? Because in the Contenders region, O2 Blast beat Runaway in semis and took their showdown spot. So there was kind of some like, well, they better do well in showdown then if they're gonna be like in that spot, yeah. And Element Mystic went like didn't drop a single map in playoffs, so they were just super dominant. So I kind of expected Element Mystic to win, because not only are they good at Sombra Goats, they're good at 222 and DPS and a whole bunch of other things. And O2 Blast is kind of a question mark, because like they went ham against Runaway, but then like ran out of steam in the grand final versus Element Mystic. So it's like O2 Blast, are they kind of like that momentum team? Are they like, can they play just as well that they did versus Runaway in the showdown? Which I think they did pretty well. Like, I'm looking at the bracket here. They got pretty far. They kind of got smacked by Element Mystic twice. So, I mean, that was kind of a repeat of the grand final, despite at least the grand final and showdown, they actually took a map, or two. So,
well, and the format was interesting to me, at least from an Overwatch League standpoint, because there was a losers bracket. So, like, O2 Blast actually lost, or did they lose? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like read the bracket here, but I don't get it.
So they won against LGE, but then they lost against Element Mystic. So in order to get a chance to play them again, they had to win against T1W, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was just your general like losers bracket shenanigans.
yeah, you just drop down and then you go back up. You fight your way back
So,
up.
like, if you lose in your first round, you have to play more games in the losers bracket to make it into the finals. Where if you lost in the second round, you would just get moved up to the second round of the losers bracket and then face whoever won that last round. And so, with a 6-person bracket, it's a lot harder to like. I think visually, it's not as clean, but it's still just like your general losers bracket stuff.
Nice. What about Element Mystique? I did get to catch the finals, and you guys did mention Doha with the Sombra, and I thought that was really cool because they ran almost a permanent Sombra under Goats, which is something that you almost don't see in Overwatch League, because some teams just will punish that outright, but nobody seemed to be able to punish them, and they got away with it really well. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, Doha has been just a standout player ever since Open Division, really. Open Division Korea, way back in the day when he was on Going Waters with Umte and Water and a bunch of other guys. And so, like, he'd always had a monster Sombra, and he actually has a really good Genji too. So I'm not surprised that they were Doha.
Who's that? Who's Genji?
Yeah, what's a Genji? Is
What's
it good to
Genji?
eat?
Yeah.
But so I'm not surprised at all that Doha, that they wanted to try and use his Sombra, because it's such a great trump card. We saw it in North American Contenders too. Like, any team that can run a capable Sombra just forces you to play Goats in such a different way that, you know, a lot of teams are probably not really not as familiar, not as experienced playing against that. But like, I'm just more surprised that O2 Blast wasn't able to counter it, right? They've been playing against Element Mystic in Korea this whole time.
Well, and speaking of that, O2 Blast at one point tried a Hanzo, and Sideshow in the chat made fun of it, but Jen actually came back and told him why.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this was a strategy. I feel bad because I didn't mean to correct, but it is in fact the strategy O2 Blast use. So specifically, Krong is a DPS player on O2 Blast, and O2 Blast prefer the 3-3 mirror matchup. They want to force that, and obviously I don't know specifically why they don't just run their own Sombra, but their way of getting a team to get off the Sombra, because you're usually sacrificing the D.Va for a Sombra, and
Mhm.
D.Va has her own, abilities in her kit, mainly the Matrix. So they bring Krong on the Hanzo to output more damage, which has a number of factors. So you're breaking down the Rhine shield faster because you don't have that third tank, you don't have that Matrix that damage mitigate that. And then you have a Dragon Strike that has no way of getting eaten, and mostly Krong will be uncontested on the Hanzo
Division
without a
2, right?
D.Va.
And
Yeah,
also the Sonic Arrow.
Yeah,
the
so
vision.
there's just a lot of things that you need the D.Vas, the ultimate counter to Hanzo. You might think, okay, you can ignore the Hanzo, but Krong, specifically in playoffs, was popping heads. Like, he was killing everything. And then you got the Graviton Dragon Strike combos. So this forced a lot of teams in Korean playoffs to get off of Sombra, because Sombra provides value, but then you're missing the value that a D.Va has to shut
Mhm.
down the Hanzo. So
Mhm.
specifically, O2 Blast would do this to force the 3-3 and then win the 3-3 matchup. So this is why people do the Hanzo. Specifically Korean playoffs, this has worked for O2 Blast.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that
Gotcha.
makes a ton of sense. Because Sombra is really productive when she has EMP, right? Otherwise, like all the rest of the time, the team's just buying time for the Sombra to get EMP.
She's just holding her
And
hand.
Right.
if you're Doa, you have it every team fight, it seems like. I watched the whole thing today and I was like, unreal.
Yeah, I mean, like the generation is definitely like that marking of the difference between an amazing Sombra and an average one, right? Knowing where to be and how to generate your EMP the best. But kind of piggybacking off of what Lemon is saying, it's like when you're taking away a character, right? You're also putting someone else on a character that they might not be as good at, right? Because sometimes you replace your Zarya with your Sombra, and then your D.Va plays Zarya. Right. And
Mhm.
then that's just not as good for a lot of teams. And so whenever you do something different, you have to compensate for what you're missing. And what's really fun about the Hanzo is it's kind of out of left field, but makes sense in that particular player's hands. Those of you who are going to try it in ranked, right? So like, like what they were able to do is work with the compensation of not having a D.Va, and they knew that, and so they go over and they push another type of counter to not having a D.Va, not necessarily goats, but just not having a D.Va. And when you
Right.
force an opponent to play your game, you're going to find a lot more success just in general. And
Mhm.
so anytime the Honda's effective, it's worth it, right? But when it's not effective, then you feel all of those consequences yourself.
Yeah, it's a really big risk reward kind of just you have to balance that. You have to weigh it in your own head, because I remember like one of the most frustrating instances, this is going way back into ancient Overwatch history, but one of the most frustrating instances of like just a team not playing their own game was when any team would play against Envy, and Envy had a super strong triple tank with Roadhog, and teams would try and match Roadhog v Roadhog with Tymo, who had like 96% hook accuracy. I'm like, bro, just dive them, just play dive, right? Like I
know.
understand that you're trying to be like, okay, well, well, there's all these advantages to playing the
You can
Roadhog
respect the
comp
dance
and
too much for
everything,
sure.
but
Yeah, we can say
at a
that
certain point,
across
you just
so
gotta
many
play your own game.
things. Yeah, like I mean, in the Overwatch League now, like everybody trying to go up against Vancouver and Shock goats, like just play something else. Like you're not going to level up to that, and you probably can get them off their game. I mean, Vancouver has lost to multiple teams heavy DPS comps, but nobody does it.
Or Houston
Yeah,
Outlaws trying to play goats.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was thinking Houston too, but we try not to bring
Yeah.
up Houston because it just keeps coming up everywhere.
So
But
painful.
specifically for Element Mystic, a lot of people were surprised, and this was on Reddit, that Element Mystic won Contenders Korea, one of the most competitive regions, running 2-2-2. So it brought a lot of question of, is Goats really the ultimate composition, or do people not know how to play DPS against it? And Element Mystic proves that they can play the 2-2-2 against Goats, specifically Sparkle and Doha on the Doomfist and Sombra, because the way that they change their playstyle and their kits and how they use their abilities to protect the DPS when they do go in. Sparkle always receives Nano, always receives Zarya bubbles. He receives all the resources because Doomfist just needs a little bit of time to execute his kit, to get into the back, get some assassination elimination, and then have that little bit of time to get out. And Sparkle was unkillable due to the way his team peeled for him. And Doha, you were asking, Bob, why did they stick to the Sombra despite maybe this not being as common in the Overwatch League? And it's because that Sombra needs to get that consistent value, needs to have quick uptime on that EMP, and can't be always translocating out. And Doha was not only mechanically amazing because he would actually be a threat, but he would have EMP every fight. And that Sombra needs to provide that, because if you're going to sacrifice the diva, you need to add that much more to the fight.
And like I would see Doa making space because okay, so like specifically on Rialto, Doa was like taking a high ground position and shooting at the enemy team, forcing them to rotate back because they didn't want to fuel his EMP. And like that's a DPS making space like a tank does. And I mean, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and the thing about Doomfist too that's really exciting for me. I'm a huge Doomfist fan, but it's the fact that he pretty much, and the Chinese teams really, I think, started this a while ago, is he can act as an off tank, right? Because remember, every time he lands his abilities, he gets overshields, right? When you add
I
armor,
thought they should have made him an off tank from the start. I really did.
So when you like add overshields, you add armor, the bubble, everything, your Doomfist can do whatever you want, but you need that coordination in order for that to be successful, as well as your Doomfist also popping off. And so like the give and take there is more, when you're going to invest in Doomfist, I feel like sometimes you're inherently playing a harder game, but if you're able to play that harder game cleaner, right, you're going to overcome some obstacles, right? It might
The
be
ceiling is really high.
Yeah, it might be harder to play Doomfist Sombra, against goats if you're XL2, for example. But if
We
you're,
don't talk about that.
but if you're, if you're another team and you have, that Doomfist who can do that, I think you're wasting an opportunity by not at least investing some time into a comp like they were running. And so that's what's exciting for me.
There are some teams in trials right now that are experimenting with Doomfist as a way of not going necessarily into the backline, but to use it as a displacement tool. Because like Lucio, his main role, Lucio's main role is to try and go wall ride and then boop the Rhine forward. But you're realizing that you can't boop if there's a shield. But Doomfist, if he charges up his fist through a crossfire, he can totally push a Reinhardt several meters to another angle, which you get a free shatter.
Remember
you can
those
go after the
uppercut
Reinhardt
shatters from back in the day?
Yeah.
Those were so cool.
And now Doomfist is coming back into the meta rather than being some flanker guy. He's actually used as a displacement tool. So it's actually really cool to see people know how to use DPS instead of just resort to the safest 3-3 comp all the time.
Rocket punch into Reinhardt to push him behind his team while a bomb goes off is like one of my favorites to watch.
Yeah,
It's like you thought there was a shield. JK, he's behind you.
The call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah,
I do like how in Contenders there's a little bit more of a leeway for this creativity to come through, right? Because I feel like in Overwatch League, a lot of teams
depends on the region,
feel,
actually.
yeah, I agree with that too. But I do feel like there's a lot of pressure to perform how like Vancouver Titans are doing, or how San Francisco Shock is doing. Like the Outlaws, for example, we talk about them, feel like that need that they have to be able to play goats like the other people are playing. But I feel like in Contenders, you have all these players coming from different backgrounds, which, like you guys are saying, are exploring some of these DPS characters in some of the ways that haven't been done so before, and creating these combos. And often we allude, for example, a lot of the players who came from Contenders were already goats experts, right? Since they were kind of like forged in that meta already.
I was born into goats, baby. I was born
Forged
I
in
play games. You bring up a super good point, and I think this is something that especially for you guys as viewers who are maybe new to Contenders, and hopefully will check out Contenders, support T2. But that in the Overwatch League, right, you're not just beholden to your own pride as a player, to your team, to your coaches or your managers, but there are investors, owners, right? Like you want to win because Comcast is paying for your house, right?
Yeah.
And while there's, still similar support in for the academy teams in Contenders, the goal is very different, right? So whereas an owl team, the team kind of lives and dies together. In Contenders, there's a lot more room for individual players to shine, and that's actually a pretty big priority for a lot of these teams, because it's almost impossible for an entire Contenders team to, as a whole, be absorbed into Overwatch, right? You got to buy a slot, you got to find an owner, you got to find managers, you got to find it's very difficult. So more often it's going to be teams in Overwatch League picking up individuals. So picking up Fried Winner, right? Picking up Sharik, picking up Gods. So the Contenders team's goal is to set up their players for the best possible success, not necessarily racking up wins as a team. So you're totally right that the pressure is a little bit less, which can allow for more experimentation.
Nice,
Very
nice. Just an overall question for you guys to wrap it up. But you guys all said that you were expecting Element Mystic to win. So my question for you is, how competitive is Contenders, and like what can because it's a lot to watch, but what rules can maybe listeners use to watch the games that are really good?
Well, you can watch the new series Showdown Shorthand by
Yeah.
Ham.
And Geo.
Yeah, and Geo. And so the reason that's so funny you asked that, because the whole point of that is to give three super broad points about each of the teams. So you don't have to watch all of the games. For example, I just did the Fusion University one, and one of them is paid by the hour, right? It's that meme. But Fusion University have a 93% win rate on Control. However, everything else, their highest win rate on the other three map types is 56%. So if you're a team going against Fusion University, if you take Control, you're probably winning that series, right?
But I mean, isn't that the map you want to be? Control
Yeah, because
is the one you want to be the best at, because it's oftentimes the
totally.
tiebreaker.
And that's why Fusion University has a record like they did. But the team that took Control
It's
off
why
of them
Fusion went to the
was,
grand finals last year too.
it was Mayhem Academy. And so if you're going into the
Press
showdown,
F.
right? If you're going into the showdown and you're going against Fusion University, right? You're going to be really looking to take that Control map off of them, because if you do, you're probably going to win that game, right? Because it's expected 96% of the time Fusion University win Control. And so basically I say that because it's one of those general points of Fusion University just in general, to know about going into the showdown. It's a lot to take, but I think what you need going into it is more so just an open mind as to what you're about to see, because it's going to be possibly a little different than Overwatch League and what you're used to there. You're probably going to see some comps that you're not used to. You're probably going to see some play that isn't the cleanest, but like I said, it's kind of like college sports, right? It's kind of why I like it. And so coming from the Pacific Showdown, going into the Atlantic Showdown, I think the best thing one can do to prepare themselves is just kind of, get over, I think there is going to be a little bit of work, but, you have to just know who won. And I think the way that the regions are, Atlantic is going to be a lot closer than Pacific, because I think Korea has this legendary status of esports in general. I mean, in StarCraft, we had our first ever non-Korean champion ever at
Which
BlizzCon,
was so cool.
right? With Saris playing
Cyril
playing arguably some of the most boring StarCraft I've ever seen, but it worked, right?
You play to win the game. You play
exactly.
to win
and
the
so
game.
I think that's why when you think of Pacific, or when you think of Overwatch in general, you're gonna say 9 times out of 10 that Vancouver is going to win, or that London will, in a playoff situation, will win, or Element Mystic is going to win, because there are different strengths for different regions. So for us in Atlantic, there's no doubt about it that Europe has some of the best tanks out there, right? We actually in North America have taken those tanks and and players like Vote,
Praise
and are going to make them play against their brethren in the showdown, right? And so Europe's known for their tanks. I think North America, I think we've got some good Reinhardt play. And when we're on DPS, I think that's what we're really known for as well. And you've got South America who come in complete underdogs, right? No one knows a thing about low-key esports, really. And so you got to go into it with that kind of knowledge of wanting to learn and being really excited about what you're about to see, because you're going to see different things, you're going to see different names. And the coolest thing about lands is you're going to see stars get created right in front of you. And I
Mhm.
think that's like one of the best reasons to watch is you are seeing who is going to be the next prophet, who's going to be, the next star
I am
in
37.
Overwatch League.
That's another thing
at
we
this
didn't
gauntlet.
mention. The showdowns are all land.
Yep.
Mhm. So you can actually see these players' faces. They'll be playing in front of live audiences. Like the pressure will be that much more intense to perform. So to your original question, Bob, how competitive is Contenders? I actually think that each region is very competitive, like within themselves. North America, we've had some of the most parity we've ever seen this season, especially in North America East. Fusion University got toppled. They were the former, the three-time, now four-time champions of North America, previously the only champions of North America. So for the viewers who maybe want to get involved in T2 and, find some teams that they love, I would definitely suggest, watching these showdowns and just picking any team, picking any region that you want to get involved with that like spoke to you for whatever reason. You love Doomfist, well, you should definitely watch Element Mystic, right? You like crazy Reinhardts, you should definitely watch EU, watch NA, got some crazy aggressive Rhines. But whatever it is, I think, after all three of our time in Contenders and covering different regions, what you grow to realize is that there are great storylines and great, teams and players everywhere. It's just about finding like those teams that are, most interesting to you. Like South America, if you're totally down with that South American play style, that gritty passion, you should watch South America. If you're all about, North America and these journeymen, I've been following, Gods ever since he was in Cloud9, you should watch North America, right? There's so many quality players and amazing journeys that they've gone through, and these teams and the rivalries and kind of the turnarounds that they've had, that anywhere you look, really, you could find a great story. So it's just about starting.
Mhm. I think, and just to add on to all the great things Boop and Ham already covered already, not only it's kind of like college sports where Contenders are the next stars of Overwatch League. There's at least a good dozen Contenders players every year, every stage that move up to the Overwatch League. It's really not that much of a step below Overwatch League, in my opinion. Obviously, there are some
Mhm.
teams that aren't
Vancouver
It
Overwatch League
obviously,
material.
yeah, it obviously is not a step below because Vancouver is now owning the league, and they were
Yeah,
just
they actually own
Contenders.
it. and it starts with what region do you start with? And Boop and Ham both said it perfectly. Watch your region first. Get to know the storylines in your region. If you're looking for maybe the most competitive in terms of the highest skill ceiling, you might lean towards Korea because you got Runaway, you got Element Mystic that are winning showdowns left, right, and center.
Yeah.
You have Vancouver Titans that were there. So we can all admit that Contenders Korea is the most, let's say, gameplay and skill intensive region, but every region has their own story. And as we are all casters, the guests anyway, we're all casters, it's our job to deliver that storyline. So if you were to pay attention with time, those casters will tell you the players to watch for and their stories of proving themselves to be in the Overwatch League. So although South America, you even see some of them actually go to the Overwatch League, and it might not be at the skill level of Korea, but the storylines and the personalities you get to know. A lot of people watch it for, I won't say the drama, but also the stories behind it. Just like how a lot of people care
And
more
a
about
little bit of
college.
the drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say the Overwatch League's biggest popularity point is those storylines.
Yeah,
It
and
has
it's
to
like
be.
a lot
You're
of
not successful if you don't have them.
Yeah, and a lot of people sometimes, or at least I know a bunch of people that watch college sports more than, let's say, the NBA or the
I'm one of
major
those people.
leagues.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
people care more about college basketball because it seems like there's more drive, more passion, and more care. Like you'll see Contenders players cry and break down on stage when they don't make they are out of playoffs because that matters more. While as you see Jake maybe punch a keyboard, and that's the extent of emotion sometimes you get from Overwatch League. So it's like you get that emotion, that drive from Contenders, and that's personally why I want to be in Contenders for as long as I can, because to not only show that spotlight onto that passion, but there's so many, like, I almost say better storylines in Contenders because they have something to prove. They have a goal. In Overwatch League, you're there,
Yep. They
Okay,
don't
Yeah,
have
and
like
so to bring it
yeah.
back to Nate, Overwatch League offers you a casting contract to cast the Overwatch League tomorrow. Do you take it?
Of course.
Yes.
Yep, see.
Yeah.
Just put me in, coach.
Who? Like,
Who is that?
it's a complete show. It's a complete show.
That was probably the easiest question of my life, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, I love this game show. Can I come back? Like these questions are so easy.
I see what Lemon is saying though, because like the thing about these players and contenders is they don't have the other stuff, right? Some of them do have houses that they're going in, but a lot of these teams are playing online with each other, right? Their singular goal is to get into Overwatch League, right?
Yep.
And that comes with a ton of emotion, right? There are people who flame out. That's a part of it, you know, and it's in every aspect. Coaches, players, casters flame out all the time, right? And in this contenders region, you don't have that kind of buffer of, you know, if an Overwatch League player, you know, gets out of Overwatch League, they probably will just get on a contenders team, right? And so in contenders, you only move up. And if you find yourself moving backwards, that's so
get
much
relegated.
harder. Yeah. I mean, you get
And you're
it's
just
so much
gone.
harder to like come up over that, right? And if you're Eternal Academy, you know, or Uprising Academy, our academy
Ugh.
teams, you know, that
Rip.
are, you know, in trials right now, you also had you also had the support of that academy, and you're still not getting to where you're at, and that's going to cause emotion as well. And those are the storylines that I think like Lemon and I, you know, and everyone has said that really liken itself to that college space where you see a team lose in the Final Four, and the camera pans over the bench and they're crying, right?
Mhm.
And you know, you see that, you know, occasionally in Overwatch League at the highest level in playoffs, right? But in contenders, like if you're a team like LemonKiwi or even Talon, right? These are the only games people might watch of you all year.
It's your only shot. You're playing for
And-
your career.
And they know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
that's a lot on the
sometimes that
line.
makes you play like absolute garbage, right? But sometimes it, like, you know, some teams just like turn into other things at LAN, right?
OT Blast against Runaway.
Yeah, I actually
Like,
think
they
Atlanta
turned up.
a really good team at LAN. But I have no proof or other reasoning other than my gut to say that, really. But
Wait, what? Atlanta?
Yeah,
I agree.
and so like that is just like really the core of everything when it comes to these showdowns, because if you're on the team that wins the gauntlet, that team is most likely getting poached into Overwatch League, right?
Yeah.
You have proven that you're the best team in all of contenders in all of the regions
In the
right?
world,
In
right?
the
It's the
world.
gauntlet.
And so you're not going to get that with Overwatch League. You get Overwatch League, right? But on this amateur level, you know, / you know, collegiate, because some of them do play on collegiate teams. You get that special, you know, something that you don't get with the security of a contract in Overwatch League.
Oh, you know what it is? You're playing for more than a win. I think is kind of what sums up all of everybody's excellent points. It's, you know, you're not just playing for like that one win on paper. You're playing to prove yourself, your value, right? And that can like inject so much more emotion into these games.
Mhm.
And also, if you just want to see some crazy comps, you should definitely follow China. Like, it's just
I've
heard that.
watched so many Twitch ads that when you said they don't just play for a win, I'm like, now Malik's voice is turning
Oh
out. They
God,
don't just
oh
play
God,
for a win.
they don't just
They
play
play
for
for the team, the fans, and I'm like having PTSD from that.
oh my gosh, right? I
So
could probably reenact that entire ad right now. She like stretches the chain.
That
They
was
have
actually
the
something
diva
that,
taking the
man,
selfie.
to like calm our nerves. That's before every cast, we actually do mimic everything that happens in that ad before we come on.
There was actually a point-
I
you
would
can-
pay to see that.
I think we've got it pretty good at this point.
yeah.
The
because
whole
I like
Jake
being the
winking
tongue
at the
guy.
camera.
Yeah,
tongue guy.
yeah, the tongue guy's my favorite. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I think our listeners got a really good view of what Contenders is, thanks to you guys. So, like, thank you so much for coming on. We're gonna start wrapping up. I thought this was gonna be a shorter episode, but I was wrong. It's
a good thing sometimes.
Oh, definitely. So we're gonna wrap up. I encourage everybody to follow Owl Recap on Twitter at Owl Recap. If you want to say something a little bit longer, you can send your emails to contact@owlrecap.com. You could also find us in our Discord at discord.me/omniclab. iPlay, why don't you tell them about the upcoming game night this weekend?
Yes, this Friday, if you guys want to find a good group of people to play with, show up. Omnic Lab Discord, we're all there. It usually starts around 8 p.m. Eastern, and it goes on for the rest of the night. So if you guys want to just come hang out, we got people from all levels: bronze, silver, platinum, gold, diamond, master, grandmaster, all of them. We even have a top 500 in there every once in a while. So feel welcome to come. It's super, super fun. If you guys have no friends to play Overwatch, this is the place to do it. People end up with like 30 people in their friends list every time that they come. So it's super, super fun. I feel like I've said the word fun like 100 times.
It's because
but
it's what it is.
I'm just trying
Is
to
it
drive
fun?
the point home. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
this
it's
Friday, May 31st.
Yeah, and I think Boop, you said you were going to come this last time. Although I don't know if you
Did I?
guys are going to the Colorado Comic Con.
I am.
We
Uh,
are
actually, we're
actually
speaking at a panel.
speaking at a panel.
I am
Yep.
going too, so I'm going
Yay!
for sure Saturday. I don't know that
Oh,
I'm
that's where
going
we're going.
Friday.
That's
the
when
name
we're
of the
going,
panel.
yeah.
We have a panel on how to get into esports.
Hey, come over, say hi.
All right,
culture.
well, I will definitely be there. But you guys should come to game night. Jen, I don't know. Do you play Overwatch? Because you talk a lot of Overwatch, but I
Yeah.
haven't heard you play.
Yeah.
Jen's a pretty
I'll
a
game.
monster
I'm a
Moira.
gamer. I
All right,
Yeah.
will
Jen.
be
Well,
a
you should
gamer.
definitely come because it is a good time. Sometimes we have up to 3 lobbies. You know, sometimes there's a try hard
Cool.
lobby, try less lobby. It'd be kind of cool if we get to play some gun game,
Oh, the gun
this
game?
time
Yeah.
Oh
around.
yeah,
It's a
gun
good
game is
game.
fun.
Yeah,
I
we
was playing
normally
it the
play
other day.
comp rules, but everybody is super inviting and there's no toxicity, so definitely come out and play with us. We
Sounds
stream.
like I can't play.
You
No
can.
No toxicity. Is that really? Is that? Does it still count as a game?
Only the fun amount of toxicity.
Yeah,
Okay.
just enough. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
just enough.
We stream live on twitch.tv/Al Recap, normally Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard, 7 p.m. Pacific. We also put all of our stuff on youtube.com/Al Recap, which has been growing. Thank you guys so much. That's been really cool. Also, of course, everything iTunes, Spotify, you can find us there. Just search Al Recap or search Overwatch League. We should at least be in the top 3. Lastly, how can you support us? You can listen to the show. You can tell your friends about the show. Everything helps. 5-star reviews from iTunes help a lot. We do read them on the show. Stitcher reviews, whatever you can do. Thank you so much. If you want to support us further, patreon.com/Al Recap. Join people like Shazir and Ridiculous Brent in making this easier on us, and that's going to do it. iPlay, where can we find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games.
And Jen, a.k.a. LemonKiwi, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me LemonKiwi _ on Instagram or Twitter, or the LemonKiwi on YouTube. And you can catch all of us on twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders, whether it is NA Trials for myself or Overwatch Contenders NA for Ham and Boop.
Well, and you've been streaming too recently on your own
I
channel, right?
I attempted, but
Well,
if
didn't
you,
you
if
get
you feel like wasting
affiliate?
a follow. No, I didn't even try that yet. I gotta see if I like it yet. But hey, twitch.tv/LemonKiwi. That is me. I'll be the annoying one in chat while Ham and Boop casts. So
Speaking of Ham and Boop, where can we find you?
I am at Boopasaurus Rex on Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube channel, 100 Owl. It started off as a satire of the Overwatch League and the things that we saw there. Currently, we're doing a little bit more serious content with the Showdown Shorthand, or Showdown Spark. No, Showdown Shorthand was our original name. So 100 Owl on YouTube, Boopasaurus Rex on Twitter, and North American Contenders for hopefully season 2 of 2019.
Awesome. And Ham, what about you?
Yeah, but if you need some more premier meat weather phenomena type content, you can definitely find me on Twitter at ham__tornado. That's 2 underscores. Some dingus took all the normal ones, all the normal ham tornadoes. And you can also find my content on the 100 Owl YouTube channel on YouTube.
And that's you.
And of course, North American Contenders.
YouTube.com/100al.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. All right, and
Right,
you could.
Boopy?
I'm gonna double check. Just
He's
like
could
real
double
quick.
check.
Okay, because the 100 Owl Twitter, if you guys are curious and following that, that also has all of our videos, the satire, the current Showdown Spark Notes. That Twitter handle is at 100 Owl 100. So
Yep.
it really should be 200 Owl, but at 100 Owl 100 on Twitter.
Yeah, and then it's just 100 Owl on YouTube. There's actually some really funny stuff.
I'm
not to brag.
Yeah, I'm gonna
but-
follow right after this because I've actually been running out of YouTube content because a lot of people
Yeah.
are like slow at the moment.
we've got Ham playing my Korean mom. We've got
Yep.
a commercial of hand sanitizer called Squirt. We've got
We had a
a
campaign for Overwatch World Cup Community Manager.
This is all last year, but it's still. I think it's held up. It's held up pretty good.
Speaking of which, Jen,
What?
why don't you tell just real quick your run for Community Lead Canada?
Oh my god, I can't believe I haven't plugged that. You are actually my bestest friend. Yes. For anyone who is Canadian, you have a BattleNet. Yes, I'm running for community lead for Team Canada at the Overwatch World Cup, which is the people that do all the socials that hype everyone up. And if you're going to World Cup, I'll see you there. We'll say hello. Boop and Ham will be there. We'll have a big group hug. But if you drop a vote on the endorsing, which I mean, voting might be over, but there's a final vote that will be casted after the end of the month, which will actually decide who wins.
Yep.
So that would be really sweet.
Yeah, and for anybody, if it's not over, you can endorse as many people as you want. So definitely endorse Jen, even if you're not going to vote for her, just endorse her so she's in the running. But
Yay, thanks.
the actual thing will happen. But she said you'll hang out. You'll have to like keep your eye out for Jen because she cosplays, and sometimes it's a little hard to recognize her.
Yeah, I was very hidden at BlizzCon. I'll try and be more recognizable this time.
Yeah, just have a sign.
That Soldier
I'm
76 was
LemonKiwi.
great, though.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. All right. So you can find me on Twitter at blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. Thank you guys so much for our dive into Contenders. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we're out.